as protests against police brutality continue across the nation, one phrase has gained a lot of traction: defund the police. Besides being a viral hashtag, what does defund the police actually mean? I'm Kara Zelaya from Daily Kos, and this is How Did We Get Here?
Back here at home and those demands for change across America, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle calling for police reform and urging a ban on police chokeholds. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, demands for change heard around the country.
Black Lives Matter.
Protesters calling to defund the police, diverting money to other programs, and in some cases, rebuilding police departments from the ground up.
This idea isn't new. Calls for defunding the police have been around for as long as the police has been around. But it started getting more attention a few years ago during the Ferguson protests, where then it was seen as a radical idea. Now, after the murder of George Floyd, it's been a term that we've seen pretty much everywhere. So let's talk Minneapolis. Tamara Sarai Davis wrote a piece for Prism titled, "Want to Avoid Another George Floyd? Start by Defunding the Minneapolis Police." In that, Davis reports, disproportionate spending on police has long been a feature of Minneapolis city budgets. In 2017, the city spent $408 per capita on police. Meanwhile, for every dollar spent on police, only 42 cents were spent on infrastructure, 4 cents on workforce development programs, and 1 cent on youth violence prevention. That investment, as evidenced by findings in a Center for Popular Democracy report, has been a costly one. Between 2011 and 2014, Minneapolis has paid out $9.3 million in police misconduct lawsuits. So essentially, defunding the police considers what role the police actually play in daily life and where we could structurally shift budget dollars from the police to other responders. Instead of the police responding to someone in the middle of a mental health crisis, the idea is to reallocate that money so that a better funded social worker or mental health care professional would be on call. Another example is addiction. If drug use is endangering someone, a healthcare worker who is properly trained to handle the situation and provide long-term care and support instead of punishment would be better equipped to help. Punishing away an illness doesn't work. It's 2020, we know this. But let's zoom out for a second. It's a pretty well-known fact that the United States budget chooses to prioritize the military over education, healthcare, infrastructure, pretty much everything. If you really think about it, this is just another example of the United States being obsessed with militarizing everything. You can Google militarization of the police and see images like this everywhere.
A controversial federal government program restarted by the Trump administration is under renewed scrutiny as more police officers armed to the teeth with military-grade weapons are deployed to streets across the country in the wake of the George Floyd protests. The 1033 program, which allows the military to pass down combat equipment to local police, was scaled back during the Obama administration. But President Trump signed an executive order to fully revive it in 2017. Critics are now calling again for a review of 1033 after reports of excessive violence by cops at protests across the country.
Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear. Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear. Why are you in riot gear?
It brings up such a great point about the American police. Why are you wearing riot gear? And why do you have tanks and weapons of war? The United States is not an active war zone, no matter how much Fox News wants it to be. And yeah, let's talk about our most violent communities. High crime areas are not going to stop being high crime by throwing people into the prison industrial complex where there's no chance of reform. Communities need opportunity. They need amazing public schools. They need healthcare. They need clean water, public transportation, higher minimum wage. Hell, communities need polling locations. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. On that list is not a militarized police. And I can hear some of you asking, but Kara, crime in the United States has fallen by at least half since the 1990s. Could that be because of the inflated police budgets? So I looked into it, and actually, evidence from the National Bureau of Economic Research finds that legalized abortion following the Supreme Court landmark's Roe v. Wade decision in 1973 accounts for the largest chunk of decline in crime rates over the past 3 decades. But but y'all aren't ready for that conversation yet. It's a different topic. Look, I'm not saying abolish the police right now. Although if you want an episode on the police abolition movement, I'd be happy to make it. I think it's interesting. What I am saying is that we are simultaneously overfunding police departments and relying on them too much. We're giving them too much money for things they don't need and also asking them to do too many things that they don't know how to do. These are two realities that can coexist. Two things can be true at the same time, guys. Defunding the police also doesn't mean that the police would literally receive no money, but instead that a large chunk of the budget, of the city budget that is currently going to police, half in some cities, would instead be allocated to other programs. And those other programs could train people that would be better suited to take on some of the current responsibilities of the police. Not all Democrats are on board with the phrase defund the police because they're scared it's gonna turn voters away. I'm not here to theorize on that. What I can look at is that these continued protests and this constant activism around this general theme is working. City after city after city are majorly reforming their police programs.
Today in New York, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced a plan to defund the NYPD by shifting money in the city budget from policing to social services. The move joins with Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, who recently agreed to slash up to $150 million from the police budget. At its core, defunding simply means divesting a chunk from a city's policing budget and rerouting it to community programs.
And that's great. If you think that protesting doesn't do anything, you are objectively wrong. And wherever you sit on the spectrum of reforming the police, defunding the police, abolishing the police, I think we can all agree that it's pretty awesome that there's finally some change going on. Is it enough? No. God, no, not at all. Is this reform coming too little, too late? For thousands and thousands and thousands of people? Yes, but we gotta keep fighting. If you're gonna keep fighting along with me, be sure to hit that and share this video with anyone that you think is confused or overtly alarmed about the phrase defund the police. Where do you stand on this? Do you support reallocating police budgets to more community-based programs? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you. Have a good one.